They are the Western Australia swans. I got a whole box of them, so why don't we dive in and see what I found? This is a fun little job lot right here. A lot of times I'll collect countries, but I don't really collect the whole country. I collect one issue. Cape of Good Hope triangles, the Brazilian numbers, Belgium, Leopold, the earlies, Barbados, the Britannia with the spear. I just love certain issues. So, but the swans are one of my favorites. So I'll just kind of thumb through some of this. There might be some pairs in here and things like that, I'm hoping. I think mainly you're going to find the 1 penny is in here. That's probably the most common one that's in here. But you want to see close up here what's... I can't go through every single one. There's a Tasmania. Obviously later I will be going through this piece by piece. But I just couldn't resist. Now I have a ton of swans. There's a pair right there. That's nice. The nice postmark. And some people do collect the ones that have the perforated holes in them. I call them perfins. And there are those. As you can see, they have perforated numbers or letters in them. Oh, there's another pair there. I know I'm kind of fumbling through this, but alright, well, I'm going to end up going down through this more, and I will show you what I found afterwards. Okay, I got these all sorted. I have checked some of the more valuable stamps, or different ones from these stacks, and looked them up, checked the watermarks and the perforations, and so I do have some stuff written down here. So basically this stack here is pretty common. They're worth $1 or $2 each, depending on which variety. Same with this stack here. Those are all 1 pennies. We have the rose color, and then we have the Carmen rose. We have a stack of still on the paper, so that stuff's got to be soaked. Then I'll check, you know, watermarks and stuff like that. There's a yellow 2 pence over here, and they're all pretty common as well. Just $2 or $3 a piece. These are all stamps. They're pairs, or there are some 3, couple 2 or 3 blocks of 3. There is a nice block of, well, looks like one has come apart, but it was a block of 4, with a nice postmark on it. And over here we have some little piles of different items. There's some mint stamps. There's some different higher denomination ones. So, but here we go with a description of some of these, and I did come up with a few that were not just commons. I'll bring out the catalog. We will open up. This is a 2021. I have the full set. They are expensive, and so sometimes you just kind of put up with it being a few years old. All right, so let's zoom in. First ones we're going to go to are going to be these. We have mint, the 1 penny overprint. Those are number 103. Mint, they're worth a couple bucks, and used, they're worth $2.50, so they're worth more used. And I do have a bunch of used ones right there. This one that I found is actually, I thought it might be an imperf, but it's actually from like an envelope. It's a thin paper. So I couldn't find a value on that, but still kind of neat. This pile, and these are a 2 pence, more than likely number 31 or 37, generally worth anywhere from $2.50 to $4.75. There could be more, depending on how many perfs, and I didn't check all of these. It looks like there's $7.75 possibly. So there's a good pile of those. I like those earlier ones. They're really cool. These are 2 pence. Got a stack of them. Number 63. That's a 2 pence slate color. 1890 to 93. And they're worth about $3 each, so that's pretty good. All right, well, ultimately what I pulled from this lot of swans was a whole envelope full of 1p. There's a 2p. These are the pairs and multiples. These are the things that need to be soaked. Another thing of ones and another thing of ones. So that's all sorted, and from that point, I guess different varieties, shades. I'm not an expert on Western Australia stamps, so anyhow, now the good stuff. These are higher values for the most part. I put an asterisk on the ones that are higher value out of these. I'm not really sure what absolute current value is, but this one here, I found it had watermark 70 on it. It's a number 80, which I think booked it over $100, so that was a good one. This was another good one, number 40. Number 101, that was around $20. That's the sixpence. And these were all number 94. Number 66, there were two of. This one was a New South Wales that was mixed in. It's a 4p, number 79, which was a good value, I believe. And then these were maybe a buck or two a piece. Number 92, number 65. Number 60 is decent, but it had a little torn corner on it, so. And this number 49 has a kind of a torn corner on the top. Believe it or not, these are only worth a couple bucks. The 1 penny mint, that are the surcharge ones. These mint ones were decent. And we have number 89. There were two of them with watermark 13. And 58. There were three of, and they have watermark number 2. Now, I'm going to show you how to find the watermark, say on this one here. Some of these, you can use just a regular watermark tray. You can put it in there, and even without any watermark fluid, you can actually see the watermark. Now, you can put them in one of these and either use benzene or lighter fluid. I don't really use those methods anymore. I'll put them in here first. I have a cinescope. I used to have, in fact, I still have a couple Morley Bright watermark detectors. They're like a little, they fold open and you slide the stamp in, and it, using some kind of a liquid that's in there, it kind of shows you what the stamp's watermark is without actually getting any fluid on the stamp. But my favorite way now, since I got this about 5 years ago, is a cinescope, and that works pretty good. This is what it looks like. It's called the cinescope, and if you ever come across one of these, they are a good buy. They can be really expensive, though. So this is what it looks like, and what you do is you put the stamp in here. You have a little pad, a little plastic insert that lays on this little tray that's in here, and you put the stamp whichever direction you want. Usually you turn it so the back is showing, and then you put it down there. Then you slide this into here. Then you turn it on. There's a light, and you can see as I adjust it, you can see it changing. What you do is you put the stamp in there, and then you tighten it by pulling this lever, and it tightens the stamp so that it really goes flush against the glass. So I will show you what it looks like. Now this one here, the watermark 70, I couldn't find the watermark on this. Very, very hard to find. And so I wasn't sure what this stamp was. And I'm glad that I went the extra to make sure. So I'm going to take this stamp out. Okay, that's it right there. Now, first, we will put the stamp upside down on here. Like so. And it does have extra pads that came with it. I only used this one, so, you know, you don't really need too many. They last. So anyway, you slide it in like so, and I will zoom in so you can see it better. So it's in there, and we have the light on. You can see adjusting on it. Now here we go. We're going to tighten it down. There we go. There. You see the watermark? That watermark is number 70. Now, watch as you turn the light down or up. This kind of disappears, but you kind of adjust it so that it finds it the right level. But isn't that cool? See the V over the crown? That is watermark 70. All right, so watermark 70. Right there. You see the V over the crown? Now, I paid a couple $100 for this device back 5 or 6 years ago. But it really is a great way of not damaging valuable stamps. This is the Morley Bright Instatector. And it looks like this. You open it up, and you put the stamp on there upside down, face down, and then there's a fluid that's inside of a little packet that's inside of here. And you can change out the packets when one gets old. This one's kind of old. I haven't used this for a while. But we'll see what it does. So you put the stamp like so. Forgive me for touching it with my fingers, but I just want to show this. It is showing a watermark. You can see the V on the crown, or it's an A underneath the crown. We'll turn it this way. So it does work. I tried it on that other stamp, and I couldn't tell. So sometimes this works fine without having to put fluid on a stamp. You know, if you have a mint stamp or a fairly valuable stamp or a mint stamp, you don't want to put fluids on it, you know, you just don't feel safe doing that. So, understandably, it would be smarter to use a dry method, which again, putting it in the watermark tray, sometimes that black in the watermark tray will accentuate it, but sometimes it's just impossible to tell, especially if there's postmarks on it. Sometimes it's really difficult. If you have it in the tray and you can't really tell, if you pull it out of the tray, the marks that remain would be postmarks. So anything that's not a postmark would show up only when you've got it in the tray. But in any case, you know, I do use some fluids. I do use this stuff, but this is pretty much for separating stamps that are stuck together, or getting a piece of paper or hinge off from the back if it's really on there hard and I don't want to soak the stamp. But it will remove the stickiness between sometimes you'll have a bunch of stamps that are stuck together, and you just don't dare tear them apart because it will ruin some of them. So this stuff does work pretty good, and it does evaporate pretty quick. So this is actually how so that's it, the Morley Bright Instadetector. You can buy these, and they do work. I'm not gonna lie, they do work, but it still was frustrating when I still couldn't get a watermark off from a stamp. The Cinescope really works well. Thanks, folks, for watching my video. I'm truly blessed with all the folks that are subscribing, commenting, and liking. I appreciate all of you. And I don't mind criticism, and you know, as long as it's constructive and isn't mean-hearted. Anyhow, that was fun. I'll be going through those envelopes and looking for varieties. You know, I don't really know a lot about Western Australia, and I really only have the Scots catalog to go by, so I'm looking maybe to get an Australian guide at some point. Anyhow, thanks. Please like, subscribe, comment. I'll see you next time. All right, bye-bye.